What is your role in the EURenOmics project?
So I have two different roles in the project. My first role is that I do a scientific project on children with steroid-resistant nephrotic syndrome. So they have a rare but very severe renal disease. And we look at kidney biopsies from these children, and we try to analyse them in a new way by digitalising them with the computer and trying to get new information out of that. So that's my first role. And my second role is that I'm also responsible for the public relations activities. So I have a bit of an overview of what all of the project partners do, what they publish and what their interests are, and I try to connect them with each other but also to the wider public and especially patient organisations to let them know what we're doing and what our results are.
How do you approach a public relations role?
So for the public relations, there's a few different things which we do, which aim at different people. We have a very up-to-date channel, which is Twitter, where we talk about the publications which have come out and interesting meetings people might want to go to, just so the different working groups know about each other, and also interested researchers around the world can follow us there. And we also do a newsletter, which is aimed a bit more at people with less background knowledge on the scientific level, but who are interested in the diseases. And that goes out to a lot of patient organisations as well, and it's available on our website.
Why is this information important for patients?
Well, I think that's a good question because a lot of the diseases we do research on are very rare. So each individual disease is few people which are affected. However, they're very severe diseases, so this is not like getting a cold, but it's really a life-changing disease. And often people have to live with them for a very long time. So, for example, the disease I do research on, steroid-resistant nephrotic syndrome, often children have complete renal failure very early on, so they need dialysis, maybe even at the age where other children go to kindergarten. So it's something that really affects them lifelong, and really a lot of these families are waiting for news from research and are very hopeful of the future prospects. So we really like to let them know that their disease is something we're working on, and really we're hoping there'll be new perspectives for them in the future.
How do you translate scientific language to something that is easier to understand for patients?
That's a challenge, to not use too many words which are too scientific and need a lot of explanation, and that's partly why we choose different channels. For the newsletter, we try to use phrasing and wording which doesn't presume too much knowledge. But I'm also very happy that a lot of the patients who are really interested and a lot of the parents also have a lot of background knowledge and they want to know the details. So yes, you have to strike a balance.
From the PR side, what would you like to happen in the remaining 2 years of EURenOmics?
I think my vision would really be that more and more people hear about what EURenOmics does, and I think we'll get more exciting results in the next 2 years as the project draws to a close. And hopefully through being able to disseminate that wider, I hope that patient organisations will be able to participate more in the research that we do and really have hope for the future.
In regards to your scientific work, what is nephrotic syndrome?
Nephrotic syndrome is a disease where children lose a lot of protein over the urine, which means that they swell up, they get edema in their face and their feet, and it's something which a reasonable number of children actually get. It's not that rare, but for most children we can treat it very well with steroids, but a subset of children don't respond to the steroids, and their disease is much more difficult to treat, so we need intensive immunosuppression medication which they sometimes need to take lifelong, and unfortunately some of these children also lose their renal function, so in the long term they need dialysis and a renal transplant.
What are the biggest advances in the last 10 years?
Well, I think it's twofold. We've been able to find a lot more genetic causes of steroid-resistant nephrotic syndrome, which has two main advantages. For a lot of children, that means they need less intensive treatment than they did beforehand, because we know that the useful but toxic drugs which we gave to other patients will not work for them, so we can spare them those immunosuppressive drugs. And also a small proportion of the children who have genetic disease, we know it's located in the mitochondrium, and which is part of the cell, and we can help these organelles in the cells by giving coenzyme Q10. And that's been very effective in treating both these patients, but also because of the genetic defects, we've been able to screen other members of the family and other members of the family who also have the genetic defect but haven't developed the disease yet. We can start treating them prophylactically, and really they have the biggest benefit in keeping their renal function.
What do you hope to achieve with your project before EURenOmics ends?
My vision would be that we really can get a lot more information out of the biopsies, and maybe even a whole new classification of nephrotic syndrome in children, and that would relate much better to what we see in clinic and also the genetic results that we get, because at the moment that's three very different classifications and worlds, and hopefully through that we can give patients and parents a much better idea of what their child actually has, and especially how it will evolve in the future as well, to be able to give them a better prognosis.